Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. Before we get started with all the good stuff, why don't I just hand over to you? You introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much, Henriette, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I am primarily a health insurance broker in Los Angeles, and what that means for people who aren't in the United States dealing with our crazy healthcare system is that I work with businesses, with employers who want to offer health insurance and other benefits to their employees. And in our country, we still have a primarily employer-sponsored health insurance system. And so I help employers figure out what kinds of plans they want to offer, and I help educate the employees to select the plans that make sense for them and for their families. And I'm an entrepreneur in that sense. I have my own health insurance agency. I've had it for about 4.5 years. And prior to that, I worked for a very large national agency to learn the business. So that is what I do primarily. And then secondarily, I run a women's leadership and networking organization called AlignWomen. And that was started initially to support my health insurance agency in order to create a way to network and get referrals for my agency that was productive and allowed me to work with the people that I wanted to work with most, which are other female entrepreneurs.
Yes. And we are definitely going to talk about networking in particular in today's podcast. Before we dive into all of that detail, because like I said earlier on, I know my audience, they always ask me questions about how to do a proper networking, how to be there, all those kind of things. But before we get there, the one thing that I always like asking everybody, all of the female entrepreneurs coming onto the podcast, is just to share us a little bit about their story. What kind of passion and what kind of drive did you have from basically starting your business, and how has that journey evolved for you?
That's a wonderful question. And we joke a lot in my circle of other women who do what I do, who are also health insurance brokers. Nobody grows up wanting to be a health insurance broker. It is not one of those jobs that we fantasize about. It is not even really a job or a business that you can go to school to learn. Mm-hmm. It is something that we tend to fall into and then find is an excellent fit. And that's what happened for me. I was running a digital marketing company back in 2000, when that was a brand new concept, when we were going into chat rooms and onto message boards and delivering marketing messages for our clients. And that was something I thoroughly enjoyed. And when that company did not continue, I had learned through my activity at that company that I was good at sales. It was not something that I had pursued in my 20s. It was not something I was aware that I could do, but when we were building that company and we had a wonderful product and we wanted to share it with other businesses to get them to hire us, I naturally evolved into a sales role. And my biggest win in that role was flying to Atlanta, Georgia in the United States and meeting with Coca-Cola and selling our product to them. And that was that's still a huge professional accomplishment. And that was what helped me to realize that sales was something that I was good at. So when I was transitioning from that business and really looking at all opportunities, I thought that going into a sales role would be something productive and effective for me. And what I love about it is that for me, sales is teaching. And I think that if I can make a broad statement, I think that for a lot of women who are successful in sales, that's how we approach it. Sales still can have a negative connotation. It can feel uncomfortable. A lot of people have wonderful products and wonderful ideas, but the sales part of it isn't something that they're super comfortable with. And I've always approached it as educating and teaching someone how my product works and how it's going to benefit them. And then at the end of that conversation, if it's something that they want to purchase, engage in, then I've done my job. And if not, I've still done my job because I've shared with them how it would work and benefit them. And that's really what appealed to me about insurance. And it's what continues to appeal to me. It's a complicated system here in the United States. It's confusing. There are a lot of laws. There are a lot of different companies that participate in the insurance industry. And I really enjoy untangling that and simplifying that for my clients.
I love that you're putting that element there of, sales is actually a way of teaching. And it's something that I've never heard before. So that, that was just like a little light bulb moment almost again for me. Just that sales is a way of teaching people about your product and service and how it can benefit them. And I think for most of the audience, those of you who are listening or who's watching this video thinking, oh my gosh, sales is still one of those things that I haven't quite got a grip on. Well, just do what Amy says. Think about sales as a way of teaching your audience what your products are and how they work and basically how it would benefit them. And I think if you start thinking that way, is where you start changing your mindset a little bit, and it just becomes easier the more you try and teach people rather than try and sell them your product and service.
For sure. And I think that that idea extends into marketing as well, when you're trying to figure out how to create an ongoing relationship with prospective clients and market to them. I approach that as teaching as well. So my newsletters and my communications are typically some version of, hey, did you know that you can do this? Or here are some common questions I get, or here are some mistakes that I see. And my comfort level in getting on video or getting up in front of a group in order to do that, it grows exponentially when I know that I'm teaching something and I feel confident that they're going to walk away with information that they might not have had before. That's
definitely one of the highlights that I can take away from this podcast. I'm sure we're going to dive into a lot more, but that was definitely the first one that just stood out for me. Now, talk to me a little bit about your journey, because obviously you started your health insurance. You started as a health insurance broker, and you started developing your agency, but then you also have AlignWomen, and you said obviously you started AlignWomen in order to network and started getting more referrals, etc. How did that idea just come up? I mean, let's face it, things just don't pop up out of nowhere. There's got to be some kind of story behind that as well.
Sure. So I've been in sales in Los Angeles and Southern California for about 20 years in different roles. And as part of the sales, let's say, culture, networking is something that a lot of people do and that a lot of people talk about. So when I say that, I typically mean joining a group of professionals that are organized in some way. They're either organized around an industry, they're organized around a product, they're organized around a geography, and they are coming together, typically paying to be part of that organization, and are meeting on a regular basis with the hope that the other people in the group will either need what they do or will have clients that need what they do. And that networking will facilitate introductions that will help everybody build their businesses. So I would say that's kind of the broad definition of networking. And I've been in many, many, many groups that have done that in one way or another. Groups organized around geography, businesses all in a certain area. I've been a member of chambers of commerce. I've been a member of a very high-end networking group. And when I say high-end, I mean there's a high cost to join, almost $2,000 US per year, and a high cost to participate in terms of time. And what I found in participating in all of these groups was the cohesion of the group was based on how much money you spent to get in, and then the fact that you were a member of the group. And that fact was supposed to then generate referrals and create business. And while it did for some, I found that for me it didn't. And I found that for a lot of other people in the groups that I was talking to, it didn't as well. And the response that I would get when I would go to organizers of the group and say, I'm not getting the results that I need for the money that I'm paying and the time that I'm investing. How can I do this better? The response that I got was go to more meetings, invest more. And I felt like, to pull it all into sort of one little soundbite, I felt like collecting more business cards from more people wasn't going to accomplish what I needed. I had the relationships that I wanted with the people that I felt would be really good resources for me. I had friendly relationships. I had people that I could call and they would take my call and answer my questions. And I just didn't feel like the way that we were interacting was creating the business that I wanted. I also have just a natural passion for working with other women, other female entrepreneurs. I love women who have drive, who are building something, especially women who are building something that didn't exist before. They saw a need for it and they created it, and now they're putting it out there in the world. And I really wanted to put my energy into supporting those women and have my interaction with them also be supporting my agency. So at the beginning of 2019, I decided to pull a group of women together who were all in complementary industries to mine. So as a health insurance broker, I network very well with accountants who do finances for business, with human resources consultants who work with businesses to help them understand how to manage their people and stay in compliance with all of our crazy laws, with employment law attorneys who work with businesses when they have legal issues that they need to deal with related to their employees. IT consultants who work with businesses to help them with their technology infrastructure. So I built a group of women, all of whom were in complementary industries, which means we were all talking to the same kinds of people at the same kinds of companies, who were all in the same geography so that we could easily meet with each other and take each other out to meet each other's clients, and who were all in a sales function so that we were all hungry. Sometimes in these networking organizations, I felt like the people who were members were well established in their careers and weren't necessarily looking to create a lot of new business, but felt that participating in these organizations was good public relations for their company. And I agree with that, but they weren't as hungry to create new business as I was. And I really wanted a group of women who were. And so I created that group, and we started meeting on a monthly basis in May of 2019. And by August, we had started generating referrals that were resulting in revenue. And that was really important to me too. Lots of organizations encourage referrals. We have one in Los Angeles where everyone's required at every meeting to fill out 2 pink slips that have the names of other people that they want to refer to another member. And they count how many pink slips you pass out, but they don't count the results of those referrals. And so I wanted ones that created revenue. And by August in our group, we started creating revenue, and we've been doing that consistently every month. And that was really the foundation of the AlignWomen Mastermind. And then how we interact with within the mastermind is called networking with intention. And I'm happy to share with you what that looks like.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And in some ways, I can very much relate to what you were saying as well. I've been to networking events and I've experienced very similar things. And maybe because those networking events just weren't right for me and I wasn't aligned with them, or vice versa. But also, I agree with you on so many levels, because sometimes we get hooked up in a networking event and we feel this is the right one, I need to pay for it, I need to be there. But then later down the line, you feel like this is not really where you want it to be, and you've wasted all of that money. And I know particularly that I'm in your AlignWomen Facebook group and find great value there. And I can see the amount of professionals that you've got in the group as well is really amazing. So congratulations for doing that. It is really, really amazing. Let's talk about networking with intention then, which I know you're dying to talk to us about. Now, I think one of the things that you said to me in particular that stood out was also that when you network with intention, it's got to be purposeful. So tell us about what you meant by that.
Sure. So what I described about the genesis of the AlignWomen Networking Mastermind is really part one of this whole conversation. Why I wanted to create a group that was built differently. The second part of that conversation is how we interact differently. And that's what I call networking with intention. So I found that when I got together with groups of women, it was very easy to be social, and we didn't necessarily focus on business. And I wanted a group that really focused on business. And so not only do we meet on a monthly basis, and we meet on Zoom, because I felt that getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do hair and makeup and get to a meeting at 7 in the morning was just not the most productive use of my time. And so I wanted to create an environment that was more relaxed, where we could use more of our time and our effort to focus on actually producing results, as opposed to focusing on getting up early and having to get somewhere in Los Angeles traffic. So so we meet monthly on Zoom, and our meetings are very intentional. I don't want to use the word structured, but each meeting has a theme, and the themes are built on top of each other over the 12 months that we're together. So we get to know each other's products, we get to know each other's profits. And it was really important to me to have conversations about how we make money. Do we have lost leaders? Some of us do and some of us don't, but how do we find our ideal clients? How do we make money from our ideal clients? Is it commission based? Is it fee based? Are our best clients ones that we retain monthly and they pay us a fee, or do we work on a project basis? We've got an employment law attorney in our group who works for a law firm. So she's paid a salary from the law firm, but then she also gets a portion of the billable revenue that comes in for the clients that she works on. And I really wanted all of us to understand how that worked for each one of us, and what a good client actually looked like. So our meetings are built on different themes, and there are questions for each meeting, and each member answers those questions during the meeting, and then we have conversation back and forth. So that tends to, you'll hear me use the word education a lot. That tends to educate our members on how each of our businesses work. And then each month we're paired up with another member and tasked with getting together on the phone, on Zoom, in person, it doesn't matter, and engaging in an activity that I call networking with intention. So really that phrase applies to everything we do with AlignWomen, but specifically it's about how we interact when we're in these pairings. And I have a long list of different activities that I recommend, but members are also encouraged to identify their own activities that will help them understand each other's businesses. And sometimes they do something together, like co-write an article about a topic of interest that they can then share on social media and share with their clients. It could be focusing on one member in that particular month, and we're all paired up twice in our 12-month cycle. So it's okay to focus on one in one pairing and then focus on the other in the other pairing. And we've had a member sponsor another member's event, and so that sponsorship related and resulted in some stage time and some good promotion for the sponsors business. I've written targeted emails to my clients highlighting one of the members' services, and offered, I'll give an example. We have a payroll specialist. So her company handles payroll processing for businesses. And she offered for my clients to do a review of my clients' payroll invoices. So she got to see the invoices that those clients were receiving from their current payroll provider. And she was able to identify places where they might be overpaying or paying in duplicate. And she was able to win 2 clients from that, from me being able to share that with my clients. And that was very productive for us and really fun. We've had members invite other members to speak at events. So that's wonderful exposure. And part of the fun of me from starting this group was to see all of the things that the members came up with that I couldn't have even anticipated. And so I've of course kept a little list on the side going, oh, that was a fantastic idea. I didn't even see that one coming. Wow, what a great idea. Every one of those interactions allows us to get to know each other better and to be very intentional about how we're presenting the other members to our clients and helping to generate revenue. And I think that's really the key. I think all of it's the key to the success that we've had. But that, what I found, and you may have seen, I don't know if you've seen this too, I would love to hear in your experience with networking. I saw people trying to create this kind of synergy out of other organizations. There might be 2 or 3 people in a meeting who said, wow, we have a lot in common. We could really refer a lot of business to each other. Let's get together for coffee every Tuesday and see what comes of it. And I love the spirit of that, but without a leader directing those meetings, without honestly, I believe without a fee, without paying money to be a member of that organization, the commitment level wasn't there. And without the commitment level, the trust wasn't there.
Yeah.
And if trust isn't there, it's very hard to introduce other people into my clients for sure. And so I think all of those things have come together to create as much success as we've had.
Yes. No, I absolutely love the whole concept. And I think one of the things that I truly like about it is how you're explaining, you've got these little tasks that everybody is doing, they're getting together, but also when people get together and they start talking more about themselves, what they're doing, how they're getting paid, how they're getting clients, that kind of creates ideas for other people in the group then going, oh, that's a great idea. I haven't thought about that. Maybe I should try that. So in a natural sense, it's about sharing that information as well amongst each other, but also having that kind of group together. I think it's also just so invigorating to see people do things, but also having kind of in a nice way, pushing them a little bit out of their comfort zone. Because once you're in that community and you're now accountable for having a partner and meeting up with a partner, that kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone, having to do these things and learning from somebody else. But I think one of the most amazing things which you just said, which is true in more ways than one, is having a community together, but having a leader. Because that makes the community so much stronger, and it's not just meeting up for a coffee every now and then when people want to. And then obviously, yes, there needs to be a fee involved, because that's when people are committed to staying on board and obviously walking with it and just growing in the process as well.
Yeah, and I would say accountability is what you were describing, that the accountability, yes, pushes people outside of their comfort zone, but in a very, very, very supportive environment.
Yes.
So giving someone an opportunity to speak at an event where they might be a little bit scared to do it, when they're invited by one of the other members, and then all of us go to that event to support them. It's a really lovely thing to see. And so, and even writing a marketing piece that describes what one of the members does. The IT consultant, I adore her. Her name is Artie, and she's in the AlignWomen community. And one of the most meaningful pieces of feedback I've received in going through this process was from her. And she said, "You've really helped me articulate what it is that I do in a way that's really helpful in all aspects of my business," because we challenge each other. And if she explains something and someone on the call says, I'm not really sure I understand what you mean, can you explain that in a different way? It helps all of us to learn. And we tend to be in our bubbles. I certainly know in the health insurance world, I'm in my bubble. We speak in acronyms. We speak in ways that other people outside don't understand. So when I have these amazing women from all these other businesses reflecting back to me and saying, "Can you help me understand that? How does that work?" Then it makes me better at communicating.
Yes.
And I'll also acknowledge and admit, I've been a very reluctant leader in this process. Was not my desire to create this organization in order to lead it. It was my desire to create it to benefit my business and to benefit the other women. And it's taken me a while to evolve into accepting that it's important to have a vision and a leadership in order to make this successful. And the feedback I get from the women in the networking mastermind is consistently that the leadership piece of it is part of what makes it so successful. And I've embraced it because I see the benefit it's giving to the other members.
Yes. And also just being in a community like that, apart from just having the support, having those kind of opportunities presenting itself all the time, learning along the way, but it's also about the energy, the collaboration, and the energy within a group like that is so heightened. And I'm sure you will agree with me when you have those calls and everybody is on the call. Yes, it's through a camera on the computer screen, but you can feel the energy amongst each other. You can kind of like jump off each other with all the ideas and all the excitement that is building up and things that they want to share because of the opportunities presenting themselves.
Yeah. Yes, very, very much. The excitement is very fun, and that is a different element than those paid networking groups that I had mentioned that I had attended, where I didn't feel that same level of bonding and excitement. And there's a level of support that that is really meaningful to me. I can call any one of these women. I can ask them questions that they would normally be charging large amounts of money to answer, and they are willing to support me and provide that information to me. We all respond to each other at the drop of a hat. You know, when one of us calls, and that level of support is really meaningful to me as well. And I know I can rely on them if I need something.
Yes. Now, earlier on, you did touch up a little bit on some kind of the traditional systems that, is out there that, what we're used to, the kind of networking events and kind of communities that we're used to. Do you have a couple of tips that you can give the audience if they want to start a community and they've kind of got this need, or they see this need amongst themselves or amongst their audience in order to create such a community? Do you have a couple of tips that you can give the audience as to what they can do to start that process?
Sure. The first one would be figure out who it is that you network with the best. I don't mean individual people. I mean the types of people. Who are the types of people who are going to benefit your business the most first? And I really recommend staying selfish because it's what's going to drive you to put the energy behind building this. And that's totally okay. It's going to take work. It's going to take energy. And that I was building this to benefit my insurance agency is what really propelled me forward. I wanted a better way to drive business to my own business. So I would say, think about the types of people that are your best referral sources, and then look for cohesion amongst those people. For me, it was very easy to line up all those different types of business people and say, well, of course, if we're all serving the same types of clients and we're all in the same geography, then an accountant who's speaking to business owners about their finances is probably going to network very well with an IT consultant who's speaking with business owners about their technology, and an HR consultant who's speaking with business owners about their employees, and an employment law attorney who's speaking with business owners about their legal issues. And so it was easy for me to construct a group where I could see that the referrals could flow back and forth very easy. So I would say, if you're thinking about putting a group together, that would be the starting point, is who can you put in that pool that shares the same types of clients and is speaking to the same types of people at the companies that you want to work with. And I think that's also a key that's worth mentioning, is if you're speaking to a business owner, but another person is speaking to, say, the finance officer, there might not be as much synergy there because you're not targeting the same people in the hierarchy of the company. So I think knowing that you're all speaking to the same people is what makes it easier, because when I'm in front of one of my clients, I can bring up any one of these other women in my mastermind and know that what those women are doing is in service to that client. So I can easily say, who's handling your accounting, or who's handling your IT, or do you have an employment law attorney for that? Or who's handling your payroll? And all of those things are of interest to the client that I'm working with. So that would be tip number one. Tip number two would be have a structure. Have a structure, and be willing to be a leader, and don't waver on the structure because of feedback from other people. So the experience behind that comment is that I set the meeting schedule before I invited the women to join. So the invitation said, we will be meeting on Fridays from 8 in the morning until 9:30 in the morning. And I had people try and change that schedule. They said, this sounds great, but that meeting time doesn't work for me. Can we do it this way instead? And I had to stand firm as a leader and say, no, this is what I communicated. This is what works best for my schedule. This is when we're going to meet. And unfortunately, I lost somebody from the group because the meeting schedule didn't work for her. But I was also very confident that I communicated that from the beginning, and that it was her choice to try and make it work. And when it didn't work, it was her choice to leave. And that felt like a point at which I had to sort of stand in my leadership role in order to keep the group the way I wanted to keep the group. So that would be a second tip, is be willing to be a leader. And then third, have structure. Have structure to the meetings. Let people know what that structure is beforehand so they can prepare. All of the women in my group know that everyone will be answering questions during the call, and they have those questions beforehand. And then anyone who can't attend the meeting gets the questions afterwards and is invited to write the answers in an email so we can share them with the group. I want everybody to be able to have the same level of participation. And then the networking with intention is also part of the structure. You don't get to pick who you're assigned to. Everybody gets assigned by me, and then everybody gets assigned twice in the cycle. And there are suggested activities, and then I follow up to see what they've engaged in and what the results have been. They know that I'm keeping an eye on it, and I'm making sure that everybody is participating relatively at the same level, because in a group of 10 women, if one isn't rising up to the same level that everyone else is, it's very apparent, and we need everyone to be operating at the same level. So that's another piece of the leadership, is really making sure that everyone's operating at the same level, because that's what benefits all of us.
Yes, and I think that is so important, because if everybody is working at the same level, again, it comes back to that energy, that synergy that you mentioned earlier on, because then everybody can, I heard a brilliant saying today: the tide lets all the boats rise at the same time. And it kind of works in the same way, because when everybody is heightened and working in the same synergy, everybody will start doing well. And I think that is so important, to have that level of energy and maintaining it and keep on rising the whole time as well. Sure. And that is only what a leader can bring to the pack. So, for you being a great leader within your community, I think it is fantastic that you do all of these things. And thank you so much for sharing those tips as well. I want to conclude a little bit with the networking with intention. Obviously, going into networks and networking with people, I think there's a kind of like let me just go from one stage to another. A lot of people always say to me, oh, I'm going to networking events and I'm networking with people, but there's not a lot happening behind that. And I kind of think that's to do with the traditional system of how people used to network. They go to a network event here, go to a network event there, exchange business cards and think, okay, that's it, I've networked. But there's so much more to that. And I love the concept of you bringing in this community and having and being part of a community like this. And that's where AlignWomen comes in. So what would you like to tell the audience about AlignWomen, and if they feel that they want to join AlignWomen, what do they need to look out for, and how can they connect with you?
Sure. So AlignWomen started out as the networking mastermind that I described, and I was blown away when I started communicating about this by all the other women from all over the world who reached out to me and said, this is a concept I really relate to. This is something I would be interested in participating in. How do I get involved? And in the beginning, I didn't have a good answer for them, because I was focused on this group of 10 women. It was a very specific need that was directed very much towards my business. And I didn't have other opportunities to get involved in the spirit of what AlignWomen was about. And that is another place in which I had to step into leadership and say, wow, I feel a sense of responsibility here to all these women who are hungry for another way to build their businesses that feels more aligned, that feels more, I'll be very honest, feels more female centric. Most of the events that I have gone to in Los Angeles have been 48 men and 2 women. And I never felt well represented. I didn't feel like women were well represented in these groups. I am in a male dominated industry, health insurance, and a lot of the other women that I'm drawn to are in finance, accounting, in law, all very male dominated industries. And I wanted an organization that that wasn't. So I felt a responsibility to create something bigger than just this mastermind. So I started an AlignWomen Facebook group. It's a private group. It's easy to find on Facebook. You just type in AlignWomen. It's all one word, and it will be the first thing that shows up in the group section. And that is a community of mostly professional women, a lot of women in professional services, and we have what I believe are very, very intelligent, very supportive conversations about aspects of business, things that are challenges. It is certainly a wonderful community for referrals. So we have women come in and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who does this or that. Does anybody have a referral? Or I'm looking for a tool that does this. Does anyone have any experience with that? And the community right now is a little shy of 700 members, and we have members from all over the world. And my goal is to get it to at least 2,500 by the end of the year, and see it grow. I've seen groups of women on Facebook that are 25 and 50,000 women strong. So I think we have just as much opportunity to do that as anyone else.
Absolutely.
As a result of that, I also started an AlignWomen podcast, and I'm thrilled that you have been a guest on that, and that we will be releasing your episode soon. So I interview women who are professionals, entrepreneurs, who are doing interesting and innovative things. They have interesting stories behind them. They've created something that didn't exist before, and we have really lovely, intimate conversations about both their personal and their professional lives. So the podcast has become an amazing project. And then I'll be starting another cycle of the networking mastermind in May. And I'll also be starting a leadership mastermind. So where the networking mastermind is specific to women in industries that benefit my health insurance agency, the leadership mastermind is open to anybody who wants to participate in very high level conversations about leadership, personal development, and women's empowerment. And let's see, we also have a website, alignwomen.org, and the podcast is at alignwomenpodcast.com.
Perfect. And what we'll do, all of the links will be below in my show notes. So by all means, go and connect with Amy. And in particular, at least just go and get on her Facebook group. I promise you, you are not going to regret it. I'm there. I love it. I see so many amazing stories there as well. And I think that's what I like as well. Everybody's sharing their highlights or amazing things happening to them. And you could just see the camaraderie amongst each other going, hey, congratulations. It's really, really nice. And I have to say, Hand on My Heart is one of the groups that I enjoy the most being in. So thank you so much for creating that. Amy, before we wrap up, is there any last kind of tips or any last words that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, related to networking, this is probably not a surprise and probably not the first time anybody's heard this, but it's really about relationships. And so whether you're in a very specific group like I've described with AlignWomen, or whether you are building your business and going to networking events that have been organized by other people, identify who your best contacts should be. If you know that working with accountants is best for your business, or you know that working with personal trainers is best for your business, identify that before you go in, so that you really know who you're looking for, and you can work through the people that you meet, obviously politely, but you can really focus your energy on finding the people that are going to be the best contacts for you, and then develop relationships with them. Most business, and at least my business and the other businesses I deal with, are all businesses where I don't control the timing of when my buyer buys. An employer puts health insurance in place or changes their broker relationship on their schedule, not on my schedule. I am not presenting them with a product and having them go, yes, I will buy that today. And even if you do have a product, a lot of your buyers are not going to say immediately, yes, I will buy that today. So developing the relationship and having the communication be, like we talked about before, educational. Here's how I might be able to help you. Here's how I might be able to provide value to you. Here's how another one of my clients used my product or service and got value out of it. Maybe this is something appropriate to you. All of that relationship developing, nurturing, watering, growing. I think women are wonderful at that. I think that's what we bring to sales that makes us good salespeople. And you can do that whether you're in an expensive networking group, a not expensive networking group, you're going to a one-off event. Be clear about who you want to meet, and then be really intentional about the relationship that you build with them afterwards.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that is one of the best tips when it comes to networking. It's not just about exchanging business cards, which most people think it is. It's about obviously building a relationship with your ideal clients. Amy, I just want to thank you so much for your time being on the podcast and sharing all your knowledge and experience with the audience. It has been absolutely amazing. And yeah, we'll be in touch very soon again. I know that we have so much in common, so heavens no, we might even do another podcast.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.